Good evening, everyone. Hello again. We are on day 8 of COP. I hope everyone in the room is still not yet feeling the fatigue of COP. We still have to continue running. I would like to once more thank the World Green Economy Organization for allowing me the opportunity to moderate this hopefully very interesting and very challenging panel. My name is Karim Rifat. I am the chairman and CEO of the Engage Group, we're a public policy and government affairs support agency. This panel is all about youth, is all about passion for sustainability, is all about ideas, initiative, energy, demarches, sometimes fights, sometimes activists. So I'm very challenged actually to be on this panel. Extremely interesting to find that I am on a panel to become speaking about youth while being the eldest one of the panel. So I think it's well placed as a choice. So allow me to start by introducing our honorable panelists, and I'll start with the youngest. Okay, so Kevin Shalhoub, founder and CEO of EV Lab. I understand you have other casquettes and other hats that you're wearing. I'll allow you in a while to tell us about this. Raphaël Lebel, Deputy Director General of Institut de Finance Durable at Paris, Paris Europlace. I also understand you have other initiatives that you will talk to us about. And finally, of course, last but not least, Timothée Masdubois, Head of Institutional Affairs at Schneider Electric, and still, while being leading a wonderful organization like Schneider Electric on the global level, but I still think this has allowed him still some spare time to do other stuff. So I'll kick off with a very logical flavor. I'll start with Kevin. Kevin, please, why don't you just lay us the ground? Tell us more about EV Lab and your endeavors as a youth activist for sustainability.
Sure, thank you so much for having us, Karim, first, and excited to be on this panel. EV Lab started with a goal to reduce emissions in the transportation sector, which is responsible for 20 to 25% of emissions worldwide. So we decided to create a brand-agnostic, multi-brand online platform for leasing electric cars, and we'll also soon be launching our store in the beginning of next year. We just signed the lease. And the idea is to really give customers an experience to be able to test out all the different solutions that are out there for electric cars and choose which product is better for them. So it's a retail as a service experience we created. And to your point, COP was created, I think, when we were pretty young ourselves. We say so. I think it also was created when we were young, for us in some way, because it was for the next generation, and the next generation is here in their careers, looking to make an impact, a positive impact, and pay it forward to also the next generation. So it's true that we all have this common goal of wanting to reduce emissions.
Hello everybody, thank you very much for your invitation. We are very happy to be here for COP28 in the World Green Economy Organization panel. And thanks as well to the Institut de la Finance Durable, which is hosted the project I'm leading. Institut de la Finance Durable is a part, sorry for all the name, of Paris Europlace, which is the organization which is leading the promotion of the financial place of Paris for 25 years. At the COP21, we figured out that we need to focus on the sustainability, so we made another group inside the Institut de la Finance Durable, where we are working more together, like on green bonds and other products, other coalition. Yesterday we were talking about just transition, for example, and today we have so many trouble to count the carbon. We are talking about accountability of carbon and how we can better count the carbon, So we have like 200 members working all together in France, abroad, to promote this sustainable finance. And in that, we have this Sustainable Finance Observatory that I'm heading for 4 years now. And this observatory, its role is more like almost an NGO, but we are working with private actors, public actors, everybody, we are like tracking the change of finance if we are meeting the Article 2.1, who says of Paris Agreement, who says that the finance flow needs to align to meet the 2 degree and, if possible, 1.5 degree goal. So that's what we do in this observatory, and very happy to be here as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for this invitation. Thanks, Jérôme and WGEO. It's really glad to be here for the COP28. I'm Timothée Massé-Dubois. I'm the head of public affairs of Schneider Electric. Schneider Electric is a global company, a global leader in energy management, in industrial automation. Our commitment is to say that electrification plus digitization can lead to sustainability. And when our net zero pass was one of the first ones to be certified by new version of SBTi. And I'm also the COP28 PMO for Schneider Electric. And I'm also the co-founder of the Circular Fashion Federation. I've co-founded the Circular Fashion Federation in France in April 2022. And our goal is to represent the fashion and textile companies in France to accompany them in their economic growth linked with circular issues and to promote circularity towards public bodies, so thanks to some advocacy.
Okay, thank you very much, all of you. Very impressive for an old guy like me, again. So I'll go back to Kevin. Kevin, I want to start talking about one area that is very important for youth, for all their initiatives and their projects and their demarches and so on. Most of these projects, and I'm sure you are a live testimony, that are linked to driving climate action, are driven by technology. So technology would mean access to technology, would mean protection of technology, protection of patent, protection of know-how of these youth people, so that not to be, you know, taken by bigger giants like Schneider or others. So how do you think the ecosystem of COP or the regulatory or policy is protective enough or not for those youth to motivate them more, to bring up more ideas and more technologies?
Yeah, I mean, it's a sensitive topic because tech on one end is all about competition and patents, etc. Especially if you look at electric cars as well, that's the case. On the other hand, we all have this common objective of advancing as much as we can, you know, towards a zero sustainable future. So it's about finding the right balance. I think, you know, tech is very exciting. EVs, electric vehicles specifically, I'll speak a little bit about, are advancing at a very fast pace. There's constantly new battery technology available on the market and readily available. The range is constantly longer and longer. And this is also why EV Lab started a leasing program, because if you buy a car now, in 3 years, chances are the range will be outdated at the pace this is going, you know. I'll give an example. Tesla is already doing 500 kilometers, Mercedes 700 kilometers out there in the market. And other brands have already announced 1,000 kilometers. So if you buy a car now at 700 kilometer range, you know, tomorrow it might already be outdated with 1,000 kilometers, and in the next year or so, even faster at 2,000 plus. So leasing for customers makes more sense, so that you can have the best battery range out there 2-3 years down the line. That's why we started some leasing program as well. We have our app that we also launched and our showroom launching soon.
Raphaël, I'll take you on a finance-related question. So, Institut de Finance Durable, Sustainable Finance Institute, if I may try to translate in English. When we're talking sustainable finance, that means probably rules and procedures and criteria for green financing and green loans. Do you think the ecosystem of financial mechanism and the financial instrument that exists today is fit for purpose for youth? Is it easy for them to comply with the requirement of sustainable finance, or sometimes it may be too complicated or too costly or too demanding in terms of process?
Well, I think it's too complicated and too costly for all of them, not only youth, but for all companies and all institutions. But let me, I just wanted to tell you about tech as well, because I used to work in tech before. And yeah, what I wanted to say, there is, with tech, there is a bad vision that the tech is very polluting. And that's true, so we need to do like limited impact tech. But tech is really part of the solution, and we really need to use this tech. And me, I was coming from the startup world, using a lot of digital tech to sell the most as you can. And I joined WWF to launch a digital application. And what we did, I used digital startup application and technique, growth hacking, blah, blah, blah. But we use it like an application for the good. It's the application of WWF to try to engage people. And that's the good thing. We need to talk and to use the tool we have today. And it's exactly the same thing that, yes, we need to take plane to come at COP because we need to meet. And if we don't take plane to fight climate change, well, there is no chance we can meet the deadline, you know. So yeah, using the digital, using the tech to solve the problem, that's the only way to solve the problem, I think. Go back to the financial. Yes, I would say it's more complicated. It's very complicated, but then again, tech can be a very good solution, and we have. I'm going to promote a French startup named Sweep. Sweep is becoming international, and they are really helping to turn the CO2 in all the value chain. And this is a kind of example where tech and finance are a solution. And as youth, from 34 years old, I think we need to challenge the system how it is, and I think that's what we do good, what we do well. I mean, the young. So we need to change the system if it's not good enough or not made, and all of them. We need to understand that we made the system 30, 40, 50, 70 years ago, and maybe it's not adapted to the system today. So let's change it.
Timothée, let's move from tech, finance, let's move to a G of ESG. I want to speak to you about governance, about in a huge conglomerate like Schneider. Can you speak to us about the governance that exists to drive the company to for sustainability? That's true, but drive the company to support sustainability agenda for youth. I mean, I'm having in mind governance of how you impose on your subsidiaries to, offtake agreements from the tech developers or youth developers that are green and so on. What are the enabling tools that Schneider has put in place for the youth in terms of sustainability?
Very good question. First of all, we had like an internal survey a year ago, and we learned, well, it was not like a huge surprise, but we learned that 95% of the employees were in Schneider for some sustainability reasons. So we are very proud of that. It's very important to be a sustainable company to attract, to catch the best talents. Because as we say, I mean, we will talk about activism. We need to be activists, and there are like radical activism, there is radical activism, there is like corporate activism, and we need both. We need a mix between radical and corporate activism. In Schneider, we have several programs for youth empowerment, gender equality, and all that stuff. For instance, we have the volunteering program, which is like to give some days to volunteer. In 2022, we had like 13,000 days of volunteering. So Schneider giving days for the young people. Well, it's for everyone in the company, but to be able to volunteer. So it's really important to give the possibility for the young employees to speak and to behave like corporate activists.
Okay, Kevin, I'll go back to you. So in your previous career, you were a consultant at Bain and Company. So can you tell me the shift between being a consultant that is more preoccupied with strategy, with ideas, into practical execution of renewable energy or sustainable projects?
I mean, I think as a consultant, you learn a lot of methodologies that apply and that are useful in everyday career. So I think you learn how to question the right things, and that's really the process you go through even to go into consulting firms. So I think that's very useful as you grow in careers. And I did my master's in clean energy specifically, so I did decide I wanted to be more into the action. So I took an emissions first approach in my career. Thought, where are the emissions the most coming from, and that's electricity and transportation, and where can I have the biggest impact in reducing them? And it was here in Dubai in the transportation sector. So that's a little bit how I decided also to get into EV Lab. And I think there's still a lot of work to be done. It's a great hub here in Dubai to be able to create concepts that go towards that get international or other appeals. So that's also our ambition with EV Lab, hopefully someday, to be able to create these hubs a bit everywhere. So yeah.
Rafael, I see in our previous talk before the panel, you're quite an activist. You said on the panel we have to rock the system or to challenge the system and so on. I want to ask you a question that I'll probably ask the same question to the other panelists. How do you see the space that has been given to youth in COPs, in this COP, in the previous COP? I mean, this is only my second COP. Do you see the COP being a bit too elitist in regard to youth, or is it accommodating to youth? Have the youth been part of the solutions that have been announced? Have they been part of the discussions of the loss and damage fund, the different programs and so on? Or you feel that these programs are being negotiated up there among policymakers and so on, and then just told or exposed, articulated to the youth?
Well, thank you for this question. To me, it's my third COP, so a little bit more. Well, the first thing, as you can see today, it's youth, children, education, and skills. And we put all that in the same day. And I think that is already like a missing point, because we made together the youth and children and education and skills. And that is, I think, something we need to change. And I support, and I will come back to that, an organization which named the Climate Quest, and I will be happy to talk about that after, which proposed that to change and to talk with a proper day youth and children, and then to another day to education and skills, because education and skills, that's not only for youth, that's for everybody. And we all need to be skilled and educated about climate change, and especially the guys who are in command today. And this is my second point. The youth of today, who are 10 years old, they are not the one who can change the climate change. We are. So we cannot put to them the weight that when they will grow up, they will have to fight climate change, because we have up to 10 years to stay under 2 degrees. We have 3 years left if we still make the same emission to reduce the emission. So that means we need to be educated and we need to change the things now. So that is something else. So I don't want to put this weight of you will have to do something. But still they will have a lot of change and all those things in adaptation. And of course they have their part to say, guys, this is the kind of world I want to live in. This is the kind of world I want to be. And maybe half of the population who are living in poverty today, they can ask for better condition living. And maybe for the other part, country like my country in France, where we are super educated and very good wealth living, even that I'm not sure that our working condition, working in 60 hours a week behind a computer, it's a really idealistic world. So I think we can really hear them to hear like what is the beautiful world you want to live tomorrow, and for that just give them a world day to speak. That's my answer.
Same question. I'm quite impressed by first of all, by the number of young people here in the COP. Secondly, by the level of commitment of young people here. But I think that COP is not like an objective; it's to pass to something else, and something else like it can be politics. And for instance, if we compare the percentage of young here in the streets and young people in the Assemblée Nationale or Sénat in France, it's ridiculous. We don't have any young people in politics. So yes, we would need more. I mean, young people are really committed in France, but sometimes they need to enter the system, to understand the politics, and then to be able to change the politics and the regulations.
I'll say, just to add to what Timothy and Raphael said, maybe, youth is everything at the end of the day. That's what we work for the next generation, pay it forward. So I think that brings the role of COP as central. When we look at even humanitarian crises happening today, and I'll take the unfortunate example of what's happening in the conflict, it's the young that are suffering the most, and the whole point of COP is to avoid more humanitarian crises. Sorry. Yeah, so it's to avoid more humanitarian crisis proactively, and that's important and paramount. We do this. Once again, we were 5 years old, 1 year old when COP was invented, the first COP, and today we're the youth that grew up to want to act and lead and make the necessary changes, and the problems are only worsening. We've seen the hottest year on climate, and so we're really hoping this COP brings together enough countries to act on this in the right ways, and it seems like it is. So we're not worried and hopeful for the future, I would say. But
it's impressive because when a young activist wants to speak, there is someone like an older man who tries to speak louder.
We will shut them down. Don't worry. Youth will always prevail. At least that's what I believe. Having 2 daughters of 16 years old, they always prevail. So I want to ask the 3 of you to try to maybe bring us toward concluding this panel. I mean, if there were like 2 or 3 key asks that you would personally, as an activist or someone who wants to put the youth agenda and climate change, 2 key strategic asks that you think the governments, the policymaker, should work on, what would that be?
I would say we need a complete switch in the political system, in the democracy. As I said, we need radical activism, but that's not enough. Radical activism can sometimes be not enough solutions oriented. So we need to propose solutions, but to propose solutions, we need to be able to speak. So young people need to speak. Young people, and I've seen like when I created the Circular Fashion Federation, created with some of my friends from 20 to 26 years old. And in the beginning, we had some other federations, other like old federations, and they were quite surprised, and they tried to prevent us to create this, because like the topic of circularity was important for them, and so we need to dare. We need to prevent from any devotion towards authority, towards older people. We don't need to be scared, and it's sometimes we as the young people, we need to talk to ministers, we need to talk to members of parliament without any fear, without any to feel legitimate to speak to anyone. That's the most important thing. It's to be a climate activist.
I would add to that, I think we need an emissions-first approach in our policies. We know where the emissions are coming from, in which sectors and industries, and that's mainly electricity, transportation, agriculture, industry, probably in that order. And we know from which countries as well, US, China. So we need an emission-first approach. We need carbon markets to regulate this as well, because it is the more impoverished countries and less developed world that's suffering from the consequences of actions of the more developed countries. Still 600 million people in Africa don't have access to electricity, which is absurd. And you can't tell them not to use coal. So you have to do it in a way that incentivizes them to use renewable energy. So there needs to be compensation. Today, once again, US and China are the biggest emitters. And them alone have a lot of decisions to take, and I'm hopeful of it because I spoke with one of the secretaries of or advisors of John Kerry the other day that was saying that they're tackling this issue head on, but I do think emissions first approach is my single key message.
May I could answer in 2 words. I'm going to quote a founder of the startup, which is like the biggest capitalization in the world today, so which is Steve Jobs, and he said, "Think different." And that's go back to the things that we need to change the system, because we know the system we are living in didn't work. And for the last 30 years, we lived in the more stabilized world forever for the world humanity, and we had not that much of war. And I have a thing to all the countries which are in war today, but still, according to the fact, it was the biggest stability of humanity. We doubled the GDP for 30 years, from 47 trillion to 100 trillion, and in the meantime, we didn't solve the poverty. We didn't make more equality, or more equality gender, etc. So this system doesn't work. And there is no chance that in the same system with energy transition limits, with geopolitical problems, etc., we can solve the problem. So we need to think different. So we need to together not fight the system. We need to change the system, but we can do it together. So I would say to the youth, well, some it's good if you're just fighting, but some of them you have to work with the institution, and you said it, and I agree on that. We have to work together, but everyone can take his part, and we need to make another system, and in this system, I think there is better chance to have a better equality and a world which are sustainable in a world way.
Yeah, indeed, I would just add that there is like this kind of triangle with the state and regulation, with the consumption and the production, and sometimes like activism is just about consumption. Okay, I will stop eating meat, for instance, or thing plain, and it's really important. But you also need to convince regulators, to convince production company to change also. So that's very important.
Before I thank the three of you, I will try to, if you allow me, sum up so many things that you've said. I'll try to use the three word of COP, the C and the O and the P. I think you're telling us we need to change the system or challenge the system. I think you are all telling me we need more coordination, more consultation, more concertation, and so on. And on the O, I think you're telling me we need to be better organized, we need to optimize the efforts, we need to orient the efforts. And on the P, I think everyone has said that we need people-driven, purpose-driven, program-driven, and project-detailed. I mean, you can get very specific. I think I being the eldest one on the panel, I was not expecting to enjoy it that much, to be very transparent, because I don't know about youth activism as much as the three of you do. Again, I'd like to thank the three of you, Timothée, Kevin, and Raphael. Thank you for being with us, and thank you again, World Green Economy Organization, for allowing us to hold this interesting panel. Thank you.
Thank thank you, Karim, for having us. And Elder is more experienced. Is not COP for cooperation. I would say cooperation across generations, across countries, across ethnicities, and hopefully we'll get to that.
And maybe to add a word, what I see on the youth is that we like to do different things, and I saw like all of us we do different things, and I think that is although like something good to change the system. Like don't be just focused on your job, and I like the fact that Schneider doing like volunteering time for other people, entrepreneurship. I think is right as well, but we don't have time anymore. But thank you again for your invitation.